Hey guys, TC here. First foremost, giving a little salute. Salute. Look, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And what we are going through right now with this horrendous amount of mass migration is very much akin to what happened in the Bronze Age. You guys go look it up. Roughly 1200 BC, we had an event called the Bronze Age collapse. And what happened, from what we know, because we don't have good historical records because civilization was obliterated. But what we do know is that there are certain cataclysmic events that force people to mass migrate. Totally desperate people or disparate people got together and they formed these huge caravans. And they made their way into the Mediterranean and started attacking the city-states. And one after the next, these ancient civilizations ceased to exist. These people are known as the Sea People. Again, they're an amalgamation of many different cultures that came together that were fleeing whatever. They're theorizing could have been a massive drought, whatever. Something got these people's feet moving, and it took them down to the civilization. And these savages collapsed civilization. And they all fell. All of them. Except Egypt, which, after they fended them off for the second time, they never recovered from that time frame. Egypt was a superpower at that time. And since they got attacked two waves of the Sea Peoples, and they never recovered as a civilization, and they were always a second-tier power after that. All these years, thousands of years later, they still have not recovered for what happened to them during the Bronze Age collapse. We're seeing that happen now. Except now we have social media and everyone's got one of these rectangular devices with a camera and connected to the internet. We can see it happening in real time. So when we have our civilizational collapse, we'll have a record of it. At least until they smash up the servers and whatever the barbarians do, whenever they take over a civilization. So, but we're seeing this in real time. It's especially happening in Europe and specifically Britain. Britain, the once mighty imperial naval power, whose navy was so magnificent they conquered a quarter of the planet where the sun never set on the British Empire, is currently unable to stop dinghy boats, inflatable boats, launching out of Calais, France, going the short distance across the English Channel and landing on British soil. They should be sinking every one of these boats. Not turning them away, just flat out sink them. And the people that are there, they need to go home. But instead, the globalists have decided that they wish to collapse Western civilization. The more authoritarian powers that the leftists claim are the better nations are very authoritarian and homogenous. You don't see mass migration going into Russia because it's for the Rus. You don't see mass migration going into China. It's for the Han Chinese. Yeah, I know there's ethnic minorities in there, but they're very small compared to the dominant ethnic culture. As left as the communist Chinese are, they're never going to allow the Han Chinese to be displaced. Period. In fact, they'll throw you to a concentration camp like the Uyghur Muslims and harvest you out for spare parts. And that's literally happening, and we do nothing about it. So, apparently, the United States and Europe and Australia and even Canada, basically, the Anglo countries are not allowed to have a civilization to be Anglo. Apparently, our goal in life was to carve civilization out of the wilderness and then let people that was banging rocks together last week come over there and fit them into society and have them take over, right? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Where you come from matters. Your culture matters. We're not all the same. I hate to break it to you. We're not all the same. Good, bad, or indifferent, it is what it is. And you can yell like, "Oh, Boggs, you're talking shit, blah, blah." I don't care. I don't care. Facts don't care about your feelings. We're not interchangeable units of economic measure. Like you just be slotted in and out of a system, and it's still going to work like it's supposed to. It doesn't work that way. We've tried that. Civilization is crumbling around our ears. So, bear that in mind. England's falling, and unless they, honestly, the only thing that's really going to save Britain at this point is for the king to take control again. Because the democratic process is not going to be enough to save Britain. The king must dissolve parliament and seize control. That's the only reason why these European nations have kept their monarchies. They kept them on the sideline. Because in the end, monarchies are actually the longest and most stable form of government that humanity has ever created. Right? This democracy bullshit, it doesn't work long term. We've seen it happen again and again and again. It collapsed in Greece. It collapsed in Rome. It collapsed in France. So they hung on to the Windsors to take control of the government when Parliament fails. And Parliament has failed. Parliament has failed. The problem is that King Charles is a complete cuck when it comes to Asian cultures. So, now, is his son? Because Charles doesn't have much longer to go. I mean, he's got cancer. He's already old, right? His mama lived too long. He was an old fart when he took control, and now he's got cancer. So he's not going to be around much longer. So his son will be a relatively young king. Hopefully, he'll have the balls to do something about it to save his people. Because Parliament has decided that the British persona should no longer exist. And don't get me twisted. They're trying this across Europe. All right? France finally found their balls. It took a woman, and Marine Le Pen, right? It took a woman to find France's balls to push back against the globalists. They're trying to keep her out of power, but they're trying. Le Pen's party is actually the majority party, but they're the minority of the coalition. That's how parliaments work, right? It's retarded. They're trying to desperately keep the AfD from seizing control over in Germany. And they're trying to vilify them as being the next incarnation of the Nazis and whatnot, and it's not. It's again, it's retarded, right? It's a distortion of reality, and they've tried to do it over here. We were saved by re-electing Trump. Whether you like him or not, he is a nationalist, and that's good for us, the people. That's precisely what a populist movement is. It's a workers' movement. And I don't care if he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and he's a billionaire. He speaks our language. And he's actually doing things that a Democrat would never, ever, ever, ever do to try to save us. I mean, look what he's tried to do for trucking. Right? Anyway. You know, that thing with Sean Duffy the other day coming out about the non-domiciled CDLs being revoked. That didn't just come out of the ether. Trump appointed Duffy and gave Duffy his marching orders to fix that segment of our economy. Right? Again, these people have been in office for less than a year this go around, so they've got an awful lot done. And again, there's other things that I wish they would get done, but that's politics. All right, it's a give and take. You have to compromise, so you're not going to get 100% of everything you want. I will settle for the majority of what I want, and what's happening is what I want. These people need to go home. It needs to lower the housing costs so our young can begin their lives and go out and marry and procreate more Americans instead of trying to slot in more third world savages to take their spot, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So things are changing for the better. But the left is not just going to give up power willingly. Elections be damned. They're fighting back now, and this is what I spoke about a couple of live feeds ago. This is what a civil war will look like. Little terrorist actions happening, and I still maintain it's going to be between three factions at the minimum: the far left, far right, and the government in the center. And we just have not had a far right group go out and conduct a terror event for retaliation. Don't want it to happen, guys and gals, but it's going to happen. There's going to be a group out there that has had plans bubbling, and the Charlie Kirk event is going to be the catalyst, and there will be retribution. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I don't say, okay, this person on this day with this rifle or whatever is going to do this and this and this, and this person is going to be assassinated. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there will be retaliation, just like with Waco, right? Just like with Waco, with the ATF and the FBI being heavy-handed with the Branch Davidians, they spawned a Terry Nichols and a Timothy Muguay with the Oklahoma City bombing, right? That was in direct retaliation to what the government did in Waco. So, it wasn't part of a terrorist cell. It's just a couple of war veterans went out and was pissed off at the government and wanted retribution. And they got it. So, it would not surprise me if the left loses one of their own before the end of the year. And that's what the Civil War is going to be like. It's going to be like the Irish Troubles. It's going to be the fucking bombings on the subways. It's going to be the shootings, the car bombs. Everyone's going to be paranoid. It's not going to be like it was in the 1860s where you have two clearly defined armies meeting each other on the field of battle. That's not the way it's going to be. It's going to be fuckers going out there and digging up cable lines, disrupting telecommunications. It's just going to be people taking out power stations, you know, like transfer stations and whatnot. They'll go out there and blow those up, and those transformers can't be replaced overnight. It's going to be fuckers going out messing with the water. I mean, it's going to be endless. And it's endless. And then as the two extremes gain more traction, and the populace is getting pissed, and then basically they're grinding the government in the center until eventually they lose control, and then one side or the other is going to take control of the government, and then that'll be that. We will cease to exist as a republic, and we will then become like Rome when the republic fell. It was either going to go to one general or another one, right? It's going to be a choice between, you have two choices. You have two generals with their own private armies. You had a choice between Pompey or Caesar. Well, Caesar ultimately won, so. But it was going to be one or the two. There was no other choice. And that's what's going to happen to us. And most people are going to applaud it because the strong man taking control of a chaotic situation will, in fact, solve the immediate problem. Order will be instituted. Regardless of which side takes power, order will be maintained. We're going to go through a period of chaos and anarchy. A strong man comes in, takes control, order will be maintained, people will be happy. It will be the 5 to 10 years down the road after they don't relinquish control, or they start getting the corruption seeps in because there's no counterbalance. And that's what happens, right? It's not normally the strong man. It's not the first guy that comes in. The first guy comes in, they're lauded as a hero. And they'll have statues built to them and praise them to the day. Even today we know, like we all know who Julius Caesar is. So it's the Neros and the Caligulas down the line that become a problem, and then that system rots out eventually, and then it goes in cycles, people, is what I'm saying. Right now we are in the early stages of the chaos period. And mind you, when we start going through our problems, that's going to be a catalyst for another world war. Will it be a nuclear conflagration? I don't think so. But what what I think is going to happen is that once we are busy chasing our own tails over here because we've been embedded with a bunch of communist Marxist shitbags that we have to root out completely out of society, once that fighting's over with, but while we're fighting each other, we're not going to be policing the world. The shipping lanes will be overrun with pirates again. I'm looking at you, Somalia, and the Houthi rebels and all that. So basically, the Suez Canal is going to be defunct. It's China and Russia are going to push. So you're going to see Russia going back into Eastern Europe, or maybe even taking the whole thing. You're going to see China going after Taiwan and pushing into Japan and Korea. So, and the rest of Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, so on and so forth. So, because we won't be there to police it, to keep them in check. And basically, we're the only ones keeping them in check. The Japanese population is declining too fast, and they have a self-defense force, but by treaty, they haven't been able to build up a military. We have to unleash the Japanese to build the military, but they're coming from behind, trying to catch up to maintain control their waters away from the Chinese, who are at full throttle right now, building military hardware. So, yeah, so we will be chasing our tails, getting rid of the Marxist shitbags, and then the rest of the world's going to burn because Europe is full of pussies, just being honest. The Ruskies are going to come in and kick their ass and their heads in, and a lot of people will welcome it because they will go in and kick out the goddamn Muslims and the undesirables and send them packing back to fucking North Africa and the Middle East. And the people there are like, well, they're Christians, they're Orthodox Christians, but they're Christians, and they're white, and they look like us. Things weren't looking that great under the old system anyway, so having an authoritarian Putin come in may not be such a bad thing because he's going to break Europe for the Europeans again. So they're not going to fight too hard, honestly. And they're much more racial over in Asia. You will see more hard fighting over there, but they're also more brutal too. So they will go in there and they will either force you to submit or they will kill you and all your kind. And that's all there is to it. It's just the way the Asian culture is. But like I said, all that's going to happen while we're chasing our tail. And so the world's going to burn. And I can't even fathom what's going to happen in South America. It's just going to be ugly, guys. Ugly, ugly, ugly. But once we do get the fighting over with here in the United States and order is maintained, well, then we can see what the new world order is, so to speak. And that's what we're looking at. That's what we're looking at. If you want to prevent that future from happening, you have to start turning those boats away or sinking them. You have to stop the mass migration. And yeah, you're going to have to be brutal about it. You can't go in there with kit gloves and giving everyone a hug and a prize just for existing. You're going to have to send these people back home. And the people already embedded in your country, you're going to have to root them out and send them back home. Otherwise, just like the Bronze Age and the Sea People, your civilization will collapse. And that's what I got to say about it. You guys take care. TC out.